Okay, go ahead and introduce yourself, Tony.
Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for the invite for this. My name is Tony Vandenbush. I am one of the founders of Sour Lemon Digital. That is the doing business as name of our company for Monicur. My son came up with the name when he was like 4 years old. So forgive, Sour Lemon Digital is pretty general. Monicur is a company that I founded with a friend of mine when we were working with cancer centers to help try to track their trainees. So my background, I usually save this for later, but my background is I have a PhD in immunology and I worked in the oncology space for a number of years. And I had a couple of biotechs that I started and then spun out of. And the cancer center that I was associated with did not have any of that on record for me. So when they went to their T32 reports and they went to their cancer center reports, they had an individual who had multiple patents in the immune oncology space that had 2 successful companies that he exited from, and they didn't have any record of. And so going back to, tracking students and tracking trainees, I found it interesting that I think that the university and the T32 programs I was a part of, that I would have been something that they would have been proud of to share. And they didn't have any of that information because there was no way to track me. So we started working with a cancer center here in Iowa, the Holden Cancer Center, in developing our system to help track trainees. And what we found was that there was a need for T32 tracking and grant tracking and all of these things that were needed. So we've developed a couple of tools. We have one that is currently on the market, which you guys know as Monicur Journey. I'm going to talk a little bit about how Journey works. This is the Journey platform is for people who are, once they've left, you want to sign the students up while they're at your institutions, and then it helps track them once they leave. And then we have a new offering. Is anybody going to be at CabTrack this year in Kansas City in October? Jennifer, okay.
Yeah.
So we are going to be launching a couple of new offerings, and we're going to be highlighting them at CabTrack. So I encourage you to stop by our desk and take a look at what we have. We'll also be running demos that you're going to see right now, but we're going to be running a little more in-depth demos of what you're going to see right now. So we have Journey to help track people once they leave. And we have Holos, which is going to be launched in October. And what I'm going to show you today is how Journey works, our current offering that cancer centers are using. This can be expanded to be a cancer center, a T32 program, an entire department, an entire graduate college, an entire university system. We can do graduate, we can go all the way down to undergraduate if you want. So there are different, obviously, tiers and levels for this, but it is very much a project that you're going to see today. It's very much a project that was born out of necessity for tracking trainees once they leave. I will then show you what the back end looks like and how people register and sign up. And then I will talk a little bit about Holos, which is our next offering that is a little more in depth and a little more geared toward the T32 administration. Okay, and that we will be highlighting at CabTrack this year. And I'll talk about some bells and whistles that are currently being developed, and I'll show you a few slides, teaser slides on some of those things. So if you are still interested, and I hope you are, I'll share my screen and I'll walk through a brief PowerPoint presentation, and then I'll show you what the back end looks like, so you can take a look. So if you need to ask a question, please speak up because I'm going to shut the visual off. I cannot see you now, so please just speak up if you have a question. You can stop me at any time. I'm not going to put this in presentation mode until I get further down the list, further down the slide content. But just to give you an idea of how this works. So you're familiar with the administrative pain points, or you wouldn't be here right now. So keeping validated contact information is extraordinarily difficult when trainees leave your program. And monitoring their career changes and advancement requires a lot of touch points. So you probably have individuals who, when they have a moment, they reach out to people, or when a grant is coming due, they start feverishly reaching out to people, trying to get information back from them. And this takes a lot of time. And it also has the unfortunate side effect of multiple administrators keeping this information. All of this information is in multiple places, probably Excel spreadsheets or in a different one of our competitors' databases, and spread all over them. So it might be a little difficult to condense that. The Monicur journey, we're going to be talking about journey. This is the one I told you about that it helps you keep track of people once they leave. So Monicur journey, the value proposition is it contact tracking and validation information. And this is done through an automated voluntary gathering system that automatically reaches out to your trainees every 6 months and asks them to update their information. So there's a basic workflow to how this gets set up. And I'll show you this more in depth here in a minute. But when an institution works with us, we create a special URL or website specific for their trainees to use to sign on. You then send that invitation to all of the trainees you want to use it. They register for a Monicur account. And then once they have a Monicur account, then they register with the training institution account. It's fairly seamless, and you'll see that in a minute. And then that training account gets repinged every 6 months. We send an email to the individual's private email, not their university email, their private email, and ask them to update their information. Now, there are multiple contact points for how this works, and I'll describe that in a little bit. But right now, this is what would happen, say, for the Holden Comprehensive Cancer Center. They are one of our clients. I will not share any information of any individuals on this talk. I know California is very sensitive about that, and so are we. So we will not be sharing any specific information about individuals. So everything you see from here on is going to be made up data, okay? So if you have a specific URL, you send that out, people click on it, they log onto it, and I can show you what that looks like here in a moment. But I want to go through some of the emails that people get. Why ours is different than other email reminders is that our email reminder is interactive. So after a 6-month period, the individual will get an email that basically asks them this: to ensure the future strength of scientific training at the Holden Comprehensive Cancer Center. It would be at whatever institution you are. That is customizable in the email. We are required by granting agencies to validate contact information and current careers of past trainees. As a trainee, please confirm the following information is correct. That has been changed to is current. So I apologize, it's a little out of date. So the following information is current: professional email, employer, lab PI, position, last degree completed, funding sources, city, state, and zip code of residence. We find that if any one of these things has changed, their career has hit a milestone and has changed. So if their career has changed, they would then say the information needs updating, and they would click that link and it would bring them to their profile so they could update the information. So what makes us a little different is that this email is interactive. This email is also tracked by our system. So if they do not open it and respond by clicking one of those pieces of information, they receive another email within 10 days. The email has stayed the same. And if they do not do this a second time, they will receive a third. And now it gets a little more pushy. You've received 2 emails from us requesting updated information so that we may maintain records necessary for government funding and training grants. Notice that the subject has changed from the previous one was basically Dr. Tony would be their PI. So whoever's PI there was, that shows up in the subject line, okay? On the third email, it says non-compliance from a particular program or cancer center, please read. Now, I'll show you on the back end, we actually track if these have been opened, if they've been submitted, if they've been opened. So we can track if the email, when the email was sent, and if it was opened. Now, opening might not seem like a lot, but it tells you that their personal email is still viable. So even if they don't fill out this information, you can update that their personal email is viable. It's a viable contact. The other thing that happens at this point, if they do not fill this out, is they receive a text message. The text message is exactly the same as this, and it is interactive. So press 1 if this information is correct, press 2 if this information needs updating, and then moves them through their phone to their profile to update. Any questions so far? Okay. So this is a basic logic chart for how this works. An email is your professional contact information correct? If they click yes, the contact update is validated. So on the back end, you'll see who is validated and who's not. If they click no, they follow the link to update the information and the information is validated. If there's no answer, an auto email is sent back. If there's no answer a second time, it is sent back again. And then there is a non-validated contact link that shows that the contact hasn't validated any of their information, but you can still see if their personal email is receiving the emails and if it has been opened. And again, I'll show you that when I go through the demo. So we are growing functionality, and I'll describe this a little bit here, and then we're going to move over to the demos or the actual site. We are currently building a manuscript tool. I will show you a screenshot of that. And we're currently developing architecture for Holos. This is misspelled. It's not Halos, it's Holos. Develop database for report generation. So this is the Holos is specifically for the admin to generate T32 report tables and reports. And we're building that administration tool is basically a CRM tool or an HR CRM tool. And that is being built specifically for filling out tables and generating reports around those different training grants and around departments and programs. And I'll show you that, a little bit of that in a snippet on a screenshot here in a moment. So let me move over to our Monicur. So now you're going to see this. Okay. So when somebody gets the URL, they're going to put the URL into their browser, and you're going to get this screen. So Monicur, University of Monicur, you either log in or sign up. If you click sign up, it goes to the same place as create an account. So if you create an account, this would be the trainee now. They can create an account with LinkedIn, which is very helpful if they do that because it links their Monicur account to their LinkedIn account and we share some information there. You can continue with Google, which isn't as helpful, or you can log in on your own. Now your email, this is a personal email. This email will not allow you to have a .edu or a .org at the end of it. It has to have a .com. We can turn that on or off for you. So I'm sorry. Okay. So we can turn that on or off for you. But it's nice to have because then it forces individuals to give their primary or personal email address. They have a password confirmation, first name, middle name, last name, gender, and the gender is the NIH basically categories that individuals can use. I'm sorry, it's not more in depth but non-binary or gender non-conforming. Other, prefer not to say. Because we add the other and prefer not to say, we can request this information legally. Once they go through that, this is their Monicur registration. Okay. So we collect gender, date of birth, so gender and age, and that is for the individual. And then if they click continue, they are done now with their Monicur registration. Now they need to move on, and they will be moved on to the survey for the actual institution.
Tony, can I ask a quick question before you go on?
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt, but this is Jennifer from UCSF. I was wondering that login section there, would there be a way that you could do that for your trainees before they leave your program so that it's set up, or have them do it, like before they leave, so that it's like when you have them with you, it's easier to get them to do something, and then afterwards it would start the automatic checking?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and that's kind of the point of Monicur. Monicur needs to be launched or logged into by your trainees while they are at your institution.
Okay.
The earlier, the better, because then they get used to the 6-month recurring email. And then when they leave, it's kind of common Pavlovian practice then to just update it. So we would like them to do this while they are there. Holos was our answer to what if they're gone and we want to admit them. So because Monicur is a third-party site, you cannot sign people up for it. It would be kind of like signing all of your students up for their own Facebook account, but you did it for them. That is not allowed. But with Holos, which is, again, we are launching this fall, Holos is administratively, the administration controls it. So you would be able to put all the information in and get all the information out. And we're building that to actually work with Journey. It'll work independently from Journey, but Journey and Holos will work together if you have them both.
Got it. Thank you.
So that's a great question, but yes, this is kind of meant to get everybody involved as soon as they can, and then hopefully they get used to re-upping.
Can I quickly chime in?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. This is Jurga from UCI. So one of the things that UCI has been doing is allowing the students to have their UCI email so that we can track them. So we have been encouraging the students to use their UCI, their edu.edu email. So I'm glad that you have that option, because that's something that would be helpful for us. I don't know for the others, because it has been an uphill battle, because as soon as they leave, they didn't have access for the email. But now they are allowed, they can keep it. So we're trying our best to use their email.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. The downfall, which you may see, well, with Monicur, the downfall would be if they get a professional job at, say, I'm just going to pick a company out of the blue, Monicur. If they get a professional job at Monicur, their professional email, their daily email is going to be Tony@Monicur. And that's where they're going to be doing most of their business, right? So they're going to open that every day, which over the number of years, I would imagine University of California, Irvine, they're not going to check that after 5-6 years of being away. But that's great that you allow them access. That's fantastic. I would hate to clean out my old emails from all of my past education.
It makes sense. The only problem is, as Jennifer said, we have to just do our best to just make sure that they continue with that email. It makes perfect sense, because where I did my PhD, I never checked my email. So you're making perfect sense. That's what happens to everyone. It's just that unfortunately we don't get any further emails from them. So it's kind of, yeah, it's a lose-lose situation. I know that.
Right. So we collect that information. We also, if they link their account to LinkedIn, you also have a direct link to their LinkedIn account then. So you can go check that spot. They put their cell phone number in here, as you can see. So we can contact them by phone. So that's another touch point that we collect. Okay. And I'll discuss a third touch point. Well, I guess you could call it a fourth touch point here momentarily. Okay. But let's go through the survey. So the information we collect in Journey, we really had to walk a tightrope here, because you don't want to ask for too much information, because then nobody will fill it out. And you don't want too little information, because that's not helpful to the administrations. So after working with 10 or actually close to 15 cancer centers now, we've figured out this is the survey. This is the survey that is going to be. So as far as Journey is concerned, this survey is somewhat set. Okay. So we collect, again, first name, last name. That's been moved over from the Monicur registration, so they shouldn't have to fill that back in. We have citizenship status, U.S. citizen, naturalized citizen, permanent resident, here on visa, etc. Ethnicity. Again, this is the NIH buckets for ethnicity. And my apologies if people aren't being properly represented here, but hands are kind of tied because the NIH has what they want. Racial heritage. Again, I apologize if this is not all inclusive, but we can choose all that apply. So you can choose multiple if you wish. Institution, this is customizable, obviously. If your institution has multiple sites, multiple locations, we can do this as a college. We can do this as a state. So we could have all the state institutions here. We can have that all together. School that you're a part of, School of Engineering, School of Dentistry. Again, this is customizable as far as what school you're in, current department you're in, university program you are a part of. Then we move into some specifics about your career. Are you a faculty member, a primary investigator, a program director, yes or no? Because we have a number of places that track faculty as well. That helps with some of the reporting out the other end. So if you have your faculty fill this out, there might be some yeses. If that's the case, you choose yourself in the drop down. But if it's not the case, then you choose your PI in the drop down. So you can do that there. You select your current position, high school students. So if you have internships, if you have undergraduate students working in the labs, etc., you can add that here. They choose which they like, professor, staff scientist, other. Date you started, highest degree completed. Again, a fairly specific drop down. Now we have current position and current workforce activity. These are things that are, again, NIH menus or buckets. We have academic, for-profit, government, nonprofit, others. So if you're current trainees, they should have academic chosen. But once they leave, they could work for academic. They could be a government employee. They could be a for-profit at a biotech, what have you. Current position, principal activity. Again, these are the buckets that are provided by NIH. You're clinical, further training, research. So if they went from a grad student to a postdoc somewhere else, they could click further training or research related, etc. Then we move to funding. Funding is kind of a wishy-washy place for this, because we cannot have all sources of funding represented here. It's just much too difficult. So we've tried to do the best we can with, and this would be funding for trainees primarily. So if they are, for example, at the cancer centers, there's a lot of American Cancer Society grants. They could have an F grant, they could have a K grant, they could be part of an R grant. There are intramural and institutional grants as well. There's also T32s. So if they are choosing a T32, they go down into the T32s at their institution, and they just choose one. The start year that they started being, on that, and the start month that they started being on that T32. There are multiple funding sources, so you can be on multiple. And that is collected to the back end as well. If someone chooses, they can add in if they're on additional funding sources. Then we have individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds, choose all that apply. If you're familiar with these are the 7 criteria used to determine if somebody is from a disadvantaged background, as far as the NIH is concerned, or the National Cancer Institute. You need to have 2 of these boxes clicked out of the 7 to be considered a disadvantaged background. And they have the definitions here, so you can simply click on those and move through. Biography, ERA Commons ID if they have one. These fields are not required. ORC ID if they have one. My bibliography, NCBI bibliography page if they have one. And if they're an MD, their NPI number. And finally, the location that they currently live. Okay, so this is current living address. So that is the survey. Now I'm going to go to, I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I want to get to what the background looks like, and or what the back end looks like, and you can tell me what you can tell me if you have any questions while I'm pulling that up. I must be doing a great job.
The ORCID ID is demanded, is expected for everyone, so it's not, everybody should have the ORCID ID.
That's great if they do. That's fantastic if they do. Okay.
Some
I do
of our-
have,
Some of our
go
older,
ahead.
all right, some of our more senior faculty still don't have.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Something about old dogs, new tricks, I don't know.
watch it. My son reminds me every day that I'm old. So,
Oh.
So it's the ORC IDs. I'll let you know. I'll let you in on something. Having been working with our IT departments and doing this for a number of years now, ORC IDs are extraordinarily helpful, but how they're used is not always the most useful way to utilize that information. So some AI systems and some search systems don't use ORC ID properly when you use them. So it can be it can be harmful.
Mm.
And I have examples of that, but I'll save that for later if there's time. So let me share my screen again, and I'll go back to, there we go. So on the back end, if you are a administrator, and I can show you how to become an administrator, and you can control who becomes an administrator if you are an administrator. So that's under permissions here, and I'll show you that in a bit. So what you end up with is people. If you're looking at people, these are the individuals at the institution. Now these are all made up for sake of demonstration, and there aren't that many because I have to do them all by hand myself. So we see that there are individuals. If the status is active, that means that their information on their account is validated. So if this status is active, that means it's validated. If it says pending, that means that they have not responded to their emails, okay? We can go into the individual and take a look at their email address, their Monicur ID, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Gender, citizenship, race, date of birth, racial background, and then you see a timeline. You can see when emails were sent, okay, when they were onboarded, when an email was sent, if it was opened, etc. If you wish to send another email, you can do that as an administrator. You can send email 1, 2, or 3. You can resend them yourself. Remember, the system is automated to send out, but if you want to send more, you can come in here individually and send them. It collects all their information, their other information here. And you can take notes on the individual for administration only to see. So that's what you see for the individual on the back end. Now, You can use the slicers on the top to sort by program. There aren't a lot of people here, so it's kind of hard to show that, but we can do positions. So let's do master's student search, and we have one master's student that has been listed. Okay. If you want to take that back off, you just go back to position and hit search again, and it brings everybody back in. You can do by departments. You can do by funding. So I'm not sure. Yeah, we have some K grants. So if I did K grant and search, we should pull up. There are the individuals that have K grants. Okay. So there are a number of different basic search criteria you can use the slicers on the top of the screen for. If you want to search, if you want to do active versus pending, you can just click the inactive and go search. None of them will show up here, but you get the idea. Now, if you want to go a little further into this, you go to reports. Now there's a mentor and trainee list, and this will break everybody out by mentor followed by trainee. Okay. And that it can be downloaded as an Excel spreadsheet. All of these can be downloaded as a full Excel spreadsheet for all the information. Trainee segments is probably one of the most important. We have graphs that pop up. And again, you can slice these and it'll change the graphs. But if you're looking at the entire medical center, here's the population. There's a few more female than there are male. I'm sorry, these aren't traditionally color coded. They just kind of come up as they come up. You can download the actual table by clicking on the little grid there. And at any time you click on that grid, it'll give you the actual breakdowns in number and not just a pie graph. You can look at a bar graph by department. So how many people are in what departments? And position, master's students, PhD students, postdoctoral fellows, whatever you have listed. So these can be downloaded, cut and paste, however you want to do it, or you can get the actual numbers from that. And again, you can slice those out by department, by program, by position. So you can get a gender, an ethnicity, gender and race breakdown of your different, at different position levels, for different departments and different programs. Okay, so what is, I know I mentioned it, what is the Monicur ID? So the Monicur ID number is that person's number for life. One of the things we are working on right now, and I'm going to open this back up so I can see all your pretty faces. One of the things we're working on is a digital business card. And so, as a matter of fact, that's how the company started. We started as a digital business card, and we moved into trainee tracking. The digital business card will use the Monicur ID for that person's identifier for the rest of their career. That will be on a phone app, a web app, and that person can simply tell somebody else, or somebody else can take the picture of their 6-digit alphanumeric Monicur ID and get their digital business card. So their digital business card has their current email, their current position, and their name. So it doesn't share any other information. It's just what you would find on a basic business card. The nice thing is that we can use this now for event coordination. We are building out a web event coordinator for, you know, when you have a summer retreat for your department and you're going to have student posters and you have to register. You could register with the Monicur ID using our registration platform. The registration platform is this is something a lot of our institutions really like the idea of. We're going to launch it soon. It's not out yet. But when you have that platform, we will take credit card payments from vendors. So if you want vendors to be at your event, a lot of institutions cannot accept credit cards from vendors for payment to be at a vendor table. We can, and we can pass that money back onto you through that. So that'll be launched sometime in the next 12 to 18 months. So that is called Monicur Event, and that'll be part of, you know, being able to register people for events just using a simple Monicur ID. And then the vendors can also interact with people by using their Monicur ID. They don't have to fill out information. They don't have to have a clipboard. They don't have to have a QR code reader and all that other stuff. They can simply have their Monicur ID number, which gives their business card information. Which leads me to Holos. So Holos, and again, I'm gonna close this and open up my PowerPoint again. So
Before you-
Holos,
Before you
yes.
start off, I have a quick question. So how many
Yes.
administrators can you add in that one?
As many as you like.
Perfect. And have you ever used it for more than one training grant, or do you have you ever used it for more than one, or just
So
one?
currently we have not used it for T32s. We've only used it for cancer centers.
Right.
But because the cancer centers represent multiple T32s can be within a cancer center, we have had cancer centers that have individuals from multiple T32s. One of our institutions has 23 T32s, and all of them are listed. Now, the problem is that the T32 administrators don't have access because they did not set up to pay for access for that information. That's just for the cancer center. But for the T32s, we think Journey is really nice because it tracks people when they leave, right? But that doesn't really help you fill out tables, does it? I mean, it's kind of nice to know where they are and everything, but it doesn't help you fill out tables. So Holos is our next offering that kind of works in tandem with Journey. It can work independently. You don't need to have Journey, but Journey helps you track people once they leave. Holos is going to be kind of what we have heard from T32 administrators on what they need. So Holos is an admin, and I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see it. And if you have questions, please speak up. So Holos, and I'm sorry, it's a little fuzzy, is a similar dashboard as Journey. It's going to look very similar. It'll be better color coded at the time. So when it's launched, but there'll be a dashboard on the left-hand side, and there'll be Journey updates. So you can upload any Journey updates from individuals if they've changed anything in the last 6 months, and that'll update into this database. Okay. Now this database is administration driven. And I do not have screenshots of all of the different things. I can talk you through it. Please come talk to us at CabTrack. This will all be much more user friendly at CabTrack. But people account. So if you're one department, or if you're one school within an account, that'll be broken down by account level. So here you see this is broken down by department of biology, school of medicine. Projects, okay, your different T32s. Reports, so there'll be different reports. So for example, this is reports for T32 table 1. So you would choose what T32 you want to track, click table 1, and it would fill in the information into the PDF. Click table 2, it would fill in the table 2 information. Click table 3 and it would fill that in. Now, where does that information come from? That information comes from inputs from the administration. So the administration, we can help. The plan is to have a white glove concierge service to help you build out your Excel spreadsheet files, because that's how everybody has everything right now, is in an Excel spreadsheet. Put the spreadsheet in a particular format, which we would help with, and then transfer that information directly into this database. And some of those things would include PIs, their names, their emails, trainees, their names, their emails, what department they're in, what program they're in, et cetera, et cetera. And once all now that takes a little bit of doing. I will admit that takes a little bit of doing. You have to have that information. We're going to have to put it into a certain way so we can data dump it into our database. But once it's there, you can individually add small groups or people as you need to into as an administrator. You can just add them. and put their information in as needed. So yes, there's some upfront work, but once it's established, then it's a simple updating when something changes in that system. So those are new students, what have you. So if you have a large number of new students coming in, we can work with you to put it into a certain format in an Excel spreadsheet and just data dump it right into the database. This works, in our mind, this works really well for individual T32 programs, but where it really shines is for an entire graduate college. Because then every T32 under that graduate college would be represented. Or in the case of California, all of California schools, you know. And this is scalable. We can do that. We can do that. It's built on a scalable platform where we can have all California universities listed.
We just need the 10 UC schools. We don't care about Cal States. Just kidding.
Okay. Okay.
We just need to convince, go as a group and picket or whatever at the doors of whoever would okay this. This group needs to protest for.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm sure that they're going to want to know what it costs. So we'll get there eventually.
Before you go there, how is this more useful than extract? Because we're doing the same thing for extract.
Sure. So extract has a hard time pulling information. So we use extract as well for some of our AI side of things, right? So we're allowed to go in there too. Where Excel kind of falls apart is that, well, for example, the university that I went to used extract as well, and it didn't pick me up. So you don't know what you don't know. When you get a readout from extract or you get a readout from somebody else, you don't know what you don't know. If somebody wasn't put in properly or properly tracked at some point, then how does that work?
It's not useful. I'm just playing the devil's advocate, and because it's free as well, and we are going to struggle with this. That's why. But yeah,
no,
it has.
No, it's good. I would rather use something that's free. You bet. And I would never ask you to use this if you have a system that's working for you. Then don't feel bad if you don't use this. But what I would say is extract, while it can do this, it does this fairly well. And I know everybody on here is interested in T32s. When a department head says, I want to know what our gender breakdown is for the department. Extract can't do that. This can do that. When you know, because that's T32 specific, this is kind of program wide, not just training grant or not just funded grants through the NIH. It does, because extract doesn't pick up anything that's from the American Cancer Society grants either. It just picks up NIH grants. Yeah. So, and it has a hard time doing other government grants like DoD grants and DOE grants and things like that. Not that we're any better at those things, but we do pick up the American Cancer ACS grants, and we're working on picking up leukemia, lymphoma grants and things of that nature. So we're continually working outside of the federal government's databases to expand the usefulness of this tool.
Tony, do you also, like, my understanding about extract, or one complaint I've heard, is that if you want to pull the data out, it gives it to you only in PDFs, which if you have to use it for anything else, it's very challenging. Would you be able to pull this out into Excel or something that? Yes. Okay, so that would be one, maybe, I mean, depending how you use it. I certainly know when I've tried to gather data from other T32s and they send me a PDF, I'm just like, oh, you know, having to cut and paste from a PDF is a nightmare.
Yeah, no, and yeah, that's a problem. The other issue is extract doesn't track trainees once they leave. So if you have something that's you're responding to something that's 15 years old and where these people are, if they've published anything, if they're still in academia, you don't know that information. Whereas with using Journey, we can help with that data acquisition. I think this is a good time. I'm not poo-pooing Extract. I'm not poo-pooing any of our competitors, because there are other people in this space that are trying to do these things. We all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. Nobody can build an all-in-one does everything for you. We're trying to, but we're probably going to fail. But if we can hit 80% of your needs with this one tool, I think we're successful in what we're trying to do. And we're a collaborative company. We want to work with you. We want to get feedback. So nobody is using Holos yet. We have a number of people that are interested in seeing what we have at CabTrack. But we're going to run Holos the same way we started Journey. The first 5 institutions that sign up get a 50% discount for 5-year contract. And that's going to be some real savings.
Yeah, and I think I know some of those institutions who did that, who are some of your like very early pilot people. And I do remember they got a very good, I remember the discount being significant.
Yes. This is a bit more, this is going to be a bit more expensive than Journey. I have to tell you, but 50% discount on this. And, we're talking about negotiating, throwing Journey in with it for the first 5 years or what have you. We can definitely work with you as long as you work with us. We want to get feedback. We want to hear what's working, what's not. But that is also, we also want you to know that we're a small team. So while we're nimble, we are also sometimes overwhelmed. So we'll get to the changes that need to take place, or we'll let you know, yeah, we can't do that. Okay. And the first 5 institutions that sign on, or first 5 states, like we could do whole states, you guys at University of California, we could do all 10 of you under the same contract. The contract is written to be extraordinarily client friendly. As a matter of fact, the first 5 individuals or the first 5 institutions that use Journey, they can back out of the contract at any time with 90 days notice. Now it's not prorated. They still have to pay out that year, but they can, in year 2, they're like, we don't like this. Okay. You're not on the hook for years 3, 4, and 5. You're fine. But that only those friendly contracts and terms are for the first 5 that pilot this and help us build it. We want to be collaborative. Okay, so this is Holos. Okay, so yes, there are some other things out there. They're very helpful. This is where I tell the story about AI. There was a school in California that contacted me about using Journey. And they said, well, we're using something that tracks publications and grants, and it gives us a little readout. And they sent me a screenshot of what they get for an individual. They looked up the individual and at the bottom it said, these numbers are generated by AI through company X. So I took the numbers and I took the name and I went and did a deep dive into that name to see if I could corroborate all of those publications and how many publications they had and how many grants they had and how many clinical trials they had based on what AI found. AI had tripled all of the numbers. And when I had gone, well, at minimum tripled for the clinical trials, it had quadrupled the actual numbers. And how it got those, I don't know. So when I went back to the individual and I said, this is what I found when I actually dove into this individual and found all their publications and did it by hand. This is what I found. And they said, well, that's okay. We use the AI numbers and we just submit it. Garbage in, garbage out. I mean, if you don't care that you're putting in false data because you can blame somebody else, that's a problem. To me, that's a problem. To most other people, they're like, we got it from somewhere else. It's okay. But that was the disclaimer on the bottom. So again, I'm not saying that we're not going to have those issues, but we are trying to use data that is validated from the administrator and from the person themselves, instead of reaching out and just grabbing something from the ether. Now, extract should be a lot better than that, because that is a database that is, you know, gathered from validated individuals, right? It's not just willy-nilly out there. But there are others out there that are just grabbing information from anywhere on the web. You want to have fun one day? Ask ChatGPT to write a synopsis of your career. Give it your name and ask it to write a 250-word synopsis of your career. I'm a published scientist with patents and everything, you know. I'm around on the internet. I did that, and ChatGPT told me that I was a professor emeritus in psychology from Yale. I've never even been to Yale, you know, so I'm not a psychologist. So yeah, be careful. I want to show you one last thing we are working on that will, again, hopefully be launched. I'm not promising that for CabTrack. I'm hoping it is, but I'm not promising that. This is our manuscript tool, or an example of it. Again, if you go through people and you click people on the left, and you go to the top at manuscript AI, and you click that under an individual. This would be for me right here. You can see that it pulls up my publications in a publication list. Now, it also gives it a score. The score is, we're 93% sure that this is this person that we've attributed this to. So it can score these, and you can send the user interface will allow you to curate these and send them out to your professors to say, please check which ones are yours and aren't. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And then the system will actually use that information to be better next time. So it's not quite an AI system, and it's not quite a self-learning system, but it's a combination of the two. And if you've gathered anything from this conversation, you know that I'm not a fan of AI unless it is controlled AI, right? In a closed system, AI, large language models work really well in closed systems. They don't work so well when they're just unleashed on the internet. So we take this fairly seriously. We want to be as accurate as possible. And again, looking forward to having some collaborators out there to help us out. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to just answer any questions you guys might have.
I have I have a lot of questions, Tony. I don't even begin, but I liked your idea of collaborations for starters. Like, if we could give you feedback and say, you know, could we tailor it slightly different? I know you said you're a small team. I've dealt with smaller teams, you know, on our campus, right? And we also all use the same HR system across our campuses. So I don't know if that was something that you could develop and we could run reports out of somehow. I don't know how we could, but I'm not a technical person like that. But
do you know what system do you use? Do you know what system you use? Is it Workaday, or is it?
It's called UC Path. So I guess that's considered homegrown, right?
I don't know if it's based on another thing, is there some underlying? No.
Yeah, I don't know on that. I mean, that would be an interesting thing to explore. And like I said, if you are collaborative and we are, you know, if you're interested in pursuing that with us, that would be, you know, we could grow this. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
We would be interested. I tell you right now, one of the questions you want to ask your IT and HR team about that system is if they have API for that system.
Oh, okay. I know it. Okay. Because we are 10 campuses, and this is a logistical thing. I'm like looking at us as, do you look at us 10 individuals or one UCOP, you know, University of the President? Or, you know, or there's one entity or 10. The problem is if Jennifer's at UCSF, should not be allowed to see her data, and she shouldn't allow me to see mine, right? So could you partition them off based on whatever the role is? Okay.
Yes, we can partition permissions based on institution, department, program, etc. So we could, even if we went at this at all 10 institutions want to do this together, we could partition out permissions for individual institutions for the admins.
Okay, that was one of my
Yeah.
concerns.
There are instances in which we'd probably want to be able to share information as well. So
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
then you would have to probably download that information and send it. But you can send it in an Excel spreadsheet.
well, I
Or
think it's getting, I mean, Holly, I think that's getting a little too far. You know, I
sorry.
understand where your
Okay.
thinking is, but yeah, I mean, that's is something that could be looked into. So Tony, I don't know if you like, we are the UC system. We have over 200 training grants between the 10 schools. So it would be a huge amount of, you know, if we're trying to I'm trying to articulate what I want to say. You know, in the T32 world, right? It would be a big impact, right? And I think if the rest of the country could see how successful it is with us, right? It could definitely benefit Monicur and you guys as far as the rest of because I know this is, I mean, I'm sure you know, this is you know, challenging for any T32 in the country, in the nation. So
yeah. No, I mean,
yeah.
if you wanted, you know, and we want to work with you guys. I mean, when you guys reached out, I thought, man, this is perfect. This is exactly the kind of thing that we've made this for, as far as scalability, to cover multiple institutions from a state level, or multiple training programs from a institution level or sister college level. I mean, we really built this to scale for that reason. So I was really excited when you guys got in touch with me. And believe me, I know the value if we were able to work together or come up with something. You know.
One thing that one of our cancer institutes, or our cancer institute did, this was years ago. Of course, you know, we lost the programmer. It was an unsustainable project, but we basically hand fed the data for like one of our training grants or a couple of our different training grants. And then she made us this map. It was so awesome of basically of all the US. And just, if you clicked over or hovered over San Diego, it would show all of the trainees that are in San Diego right now and where they're at. I mean, I mean, it's stuff like that, you know, like that would be phenomenal to have.
I'm gonna try to pull that up. We have that. We have a map associated with trainees. So on your trainees, I can show people I can show you where your trainees are or where they ended up. So yeah, we have a couple of individuals.
Yeah, it's always been my dream to get back to that state because I really like that. It'd be just so awesome for someone to be able to put that on their website, showcasing their grant and say, hey, this is where everybody's at right now, you know?
Or in your renewal, right, Jill? Like,
absolutely.
That'd be traffic for a renewal.
Yeah, well, and I noticed the reports were the same way. Those would be highly productive for your renewals. I mean, putting together all those figures for your program plan, you know, what percentage of, you know, you need, and it would be there. So anyway, we're at 3 o'clock, so I know some people have to log off. But I would like to hang on if anybody else wants to hang on and chit chat a little bit more. We could talk about, I guess, you know, or we could set up a meeting for next steps or something like that, because we would have to approach obviously leadership, which is going to be, it's always a tough sell for us. But you know,
sorry, I got to run too.
Thanks, Jennifer. So much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Jennifer.
But yeah, I think this would be really, really beneficial for our campuses. And yeah, I don't know if Kelly's, I guess, Kelly and Jurga, do you guys have other input on?
Well, and I guess I'm also just curious because at UCLA, we have a homegrown system that does some of the stuff that Holos currently does, but you know, there's always room for improvement. I'm always super curious about what other programs are out there. One of the biggest pain points that we have with their current system, from my perspective, is that it's really good at pulling data that is in the system, but it isn't editable in the system. And so, you know, the data is used in a first draft, and then you still need to download a million Excel reports and manually update it. And that is a super, you know, it's not a very streamlined process per project. And so I'm curious if, I know it's very in the early stages, but if you were thinking about a future for Holos where individual grant profiles may be editable, or is this more of a pulling information from what's on there to then, you know, manually update outside of the system?
So the short answer to that is yes, we want to make this, and we want to have the administrator have complete control over this single source of truth. So as they determine what truth is, they can update what they want to put in there. So it would be, so that's what we're hoping to do, is give administrators control. Well, high-end administrators, right? You don't want everybody being able to go in and mess with things, but high-end administrators have the control to say, you know what, this person didn't fill that in right, or this is not done properly, or this does not make sense, we need to correct that. So you will have the opportunity to go in and change things. Now, changing them in a text format, probably not. Changing them in a drop-down menu will have to include those changes into a drop-down menu. So that's how those things change. Because if you're not an IT specialist, this might not make sense. But if you're asking an algorithm to collect things and then spit out a report, all of those things have to be put into the system the same way. And if you're typing and somebody puts a dot after the middle initial and somebody else misses it, that person now is two different people as far as the algorithm's concerned, because there's a dot now where there wasn't one before. So we have to limit text fields and try to do everything by drop down where possible. So as long as, and that's why, you know, having a bunch of institutions help us to determine what is best in those drop downs makes a lot of sense. But yes, we want you guys to be able to alter things, move things, change things. Now, because we are not FERPA compliant, we can't have certain things in this database, right? We can't have grades, can't have class schedule, can't have what they owe the university if they are paying tuition. Other than that, everything on here is, everything that we ask is non-FERPA. So, and we do that on purpose because the regulatory costs would be so extravagant, it's so astronomical that nobody would buy this from us, right? It would be, we'd have to have the price be so high, nobody would buy it.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is wonderful, especially being able to just change whatever needs to be updated or changed. That would be wonderful. And unlike extract, which is useless in every way, because you cannot download whatever you put in and you reuse it, as somebody else already mentioned. And also, it's only a couple of tables that are included in the extract. But however, we have to manually update a lot of things and manually collect a lot of data that could be included in this. So this is so
we are building this to fill out tables 1 through 9.
okay. Well, that's some, I would like to see that, because what really concerns me on that is when you complete the tables, it has to be done manually anyways, right? The first time,
Right.
Unless what Jill was saying, we have some kind of way of funneling at least some of the tables, some of the information, not necessarily the tables, but that would be done manually, and then that would be needed, that needs to be updated every time. But if we can have that information in one place, that would be wonderful for the renewals. So it has a lot of positive things.
Right. So our system will automatically fill in PDF tables. And they should be filled in the correct orientation that the renewals would have to be in. So you may not have to do it by hand. It may just I'm sure that they're not I'm sure that they're generated on a system that you have to put in everything and then submit it electronically. You don't actually send them a PDF file. They have their own. But what it would do is give you a PDF outlook of what numbers should be in those boxes, and then you would just copy those.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And there are some things that I use personally after all these years. I have developed a couple of things that I use to double check what table 1 and table 2, 1 and 2, for example. There are some numbers that you need to double check and they need to be balanced. So those are the kind of things that you can write a program so that they can double check for us.
Yeah, and that kind of information, little tricks like that is exactly what we would want in this collaboration.
Perfect.
Because I've never filled out one of these. I have only read the instructions on filling them out. And so we need collaborators to help us and say, and I've talked to people that have filled these out and I say, well, how do you interpret these rules? And they say, well, we interpret it this way. And then I go to another T32 and I say, how do you interpret these rules? And they interpret them in a totally different way. So
you can talk to me and Jill and we will get completely different information.
Yeah, Polly's not on the call. She would get on her taxonomy soapbox. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
The NIH has made that, and in some ways it's important because there's certain projects that need to have different interpretations, but it does create a big challenge when trying to centralize this data or even just basic instructions about how to interpret the instructions.
Right. And in my opinion, if the instructions can be misinterpreted, they're bad instructions. Number one. Number two, if the instructions are the way they're going to be, then the field or the marketplace needs to determine a standard by which each instruction is interpreted. So even though people might feel like, well, I want to interpret it this way because it would look better or because it feels right for my situation, that should be erased. We should have a common set of how we interpret the instruction, and having a system do it like this and have checks and balances, like you said, on the numbers, I think is the right way to do this. But we have to get enough people and enough institutions using this and saying, and then going to the NIH. And we're going to do this with the NCI coming up because we're getting enough cancer centers now to do this. Say, this is how the cancer centers interpret what you need. And we have a quorum that are using Monicur Journey. And now that should be the standard. And I think we could do that. I think we could do that with T32 tables at some point. It's not going to happen for a while, but with help from experts like you, I think we could make it happen.
I have one last question. Sorry, Jill.
No.
So NIH is very kind, so they update things when they shouldn't, and they change the tables. So is there any way that we can communicate with you and just like add or just take out whatever we don't need?
Yeah, so you'll be able to, so we should be able to make it so that you can go into the table and change what you don't like or move what you don't want. And we're going to try to stay up to date on the changes that NIH make. But that, again, that comes in handy to have you guys boots on the ground, because you can say, you can tell us, well, NIH changed this. Can we change that? So the table formatting seems to change frequently, but most of the basic questions don't really, most of the basic information doesn't change all that much, from my understanding. There are some edge cases, some of the later tables get a little more fluid, but I think the first 3 or 4 tables stay pretty consistent.
And yeah, like table 6A, they're just taking out altogether, which is actually data that we collected. So if they took out 6B, I would have been much happier, but no, they did the opposite. But we want to be respectful of your time. It's already 3:10. So I think, Tony, next steps, I'm going to meet with our executive team, and maybe I can even just like do an email, and then we can see how we'll proceed with our leadership, and then talking to you, if that sounds okay.
That sounds great. I know you're never supposed to talk price, but I don't want people to get sticker shocked when, this comes up. Right now, at the discount that we're willing to give to the first places that come on, we're looking at covering an entire institution as far as graduate college, not undergraduate or anything else, just graduate college institutions. One institution, the first 5 in, it'd be $25,000 a year for one institution. For the
Wait.
whole graduate college.
This one is for holos.
That's for holos, not
Oh.
Journey. That's for holos. And we could roll Journey into that and if we did the whole, the whole UC system, I could roll Journey into that for free and give you both Journey and holos.
Oh, so this is good. We actually have just executive people on here right now. Okay, so when you say 25,000, it'd be 25,000 for UCSD, 25,000 for UCLA? Or is
That's how it was set.
25,000 per training grant?
No. Per UCSD, 25,000. UCLA, 25,000.
Okay.
However
Okay,
many
so
training grants. Yeah.
Okay.
However many training grants you have. Now, we can get creative, okay? When we were talking about doing 2 T32s as one-offs, we were talking about doing them at $1,500 a year per T32.
Interesting.
But I think, honestly, you don't collect all your data then. Because if you're just doing a T32, you only have the people on the T32. You don't have the whole graduate college. So you don't get all of the other benefits of the database, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be that convincing to convince the campus to just spend 15,000 per training grant. So 25 for the whole campus would be much better for the whole training, for all the training grants.
I wish our training related expenses could cover this.
Yeah.
So I would be willing, I mean, that's a pretty steep discount from what we were thinking that we were going to charge for a whole campus for a graduate college. So 25,000, like that's about a 40% discount of where we think the list price should be for this product. So at 20, at 10 schools, you're looking at $250,000 a year. But that covers that would cover all of the over 200 training grants, not to mention other reports that you would find important that we could help build in for departments, for programs. For schools, School of Dentistry.
250,000 per year for all 10 campuses. And that's already including with the discount.
That's with the discount, yes.
Okay.
But we get Journey for free, Jill.
Yes. You get Journey for free, which would at cost, Journey for a whole institution is $10,000 a year at list price. So that saves you $100,000, right?
Yeah. Is there any way that you can just draft something unofficial that way? Because these are scientists, they need to see something in writing. So when we convince the people, that will be very helpful.
What do you need?
Just this numbers, but coming from you instead of me telling them.
Sure. Yeah, I can get you you want a quote? Is what you want, an official quote?
That would be phenomenal.
Yeah, right. I can do an official quote. Do you want the quote to list? I should list all 10 institutions individually in the invoice line.
Sure.
Yeah. For now.
Or do you want it for the entire, or do you just want to have it for the UC system? And then have it include 10 schools?
Actually, probably if we were gonna, I'm thinking out loud here to Kelly and Yurga. If we went the UC Braid, if we were trying to get UC Braid funding, then we would have to do UCOP, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because what about UC Merced, who has one training grant?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know.
They,
Right, and I don't know if UC Braid is covering it, will that cover the non-UC Braid UC schools?
Yeah, so, but if we all just ponied up, a certain amount, right?
Mhm.
I don't know. So I don't know how the quote should be written. What do you?
I would recommend that I put in the invoice UC system.
Yeah, it would be
And-
actually University of California at the Regents.
Mhm.
I could send you the full,
right. And the other thing is, it might come to, like, for example, if UC Merced doesn't want to do it, if it's not the whole 10 campuses, would it affect us? Because I don't want this to sink in just because one campus doesn't want to do it. Because I definitely would just want to do this yesterday. So the same for you guys. And we have to do our best to just convince our people and saying, okay, this is 25,000 per head. But would that affect, like, if some of the campuses wouldn't go with it? The whole 10 if you don't get the whole 10 campuses?
No, if we don't get the whole 10 campuses, we can adjust the pricing. Okay. So if we can adjust the pricing, it would, part of the reason I'm willing to give that steep discount and the free journey to you guys is you're bringing a lot to us.
Right.
Now, if that goes from 10 universities down to 5, you might not get as much of a discount, or I might have to, not offer free journey. But I'm willing to work with you.
so yeah, it's interesting that have you, it's kind of morphing in another rabbit hole, but are you familiar with the National Training Group, Grant Community of Practice Group?
No.
So they started something just for T32s. I think it started out of Northwestern. I mean, we could definitely have an influence on them, and that is all the universities. I mean, there's almost every university is out there so I could see it like very much. We could really build your business as well. I mean, especially if they saw, ooh, this is working for the whole UC system. We do have like the UC Merceds that only have one grant, but we want those campuses to grow, right? If we have an easier system that yes, we have pain points, but now Merced can just flip a button and produce data tables. That's another part of our goal as the consortium. So I still think it should be the 10 campuses, whether they use it or not, I guess, but yeah, so
Yeah, and if we don't bring the whole 10 campuses from UC, we will make sure that we'll just spread this for the whole training plan.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Like I said, we want to work collaboratively with our partners, but we don't want to force anybody's hand. If you're not happy with us, we want to know it. And then, if we can't make you happy, we're fine with you bad mouthing us. So, we really want this to work. We want to be collaborative. We want to work together. And if we're not holding up our end of the bargain, then we deserve to be badmouthed. So we're going to do everything we can not to let that happen. So,
well, and I think we've just Kelly and Jurgen and the experience. I mean, I've been on this campus since 1998, and I'd say year 2000 was when I started working on training grants. So it's been a long time, and you have that kind of experience across all those, all of just UCSD, and you have UCLA, UC Irvine. So you have a lot of people that have you'd have a lot of stakeholders that want to make this successful, is what I'm saying. So
well, that's fantastic.
A lot of interest in it.
I wish I could give you guys more. I wish I could give you guys more of a break, but we actually have to, pay our coders and stuff. So I wish they didn't need it. I wish they didn't need to be paid. I really do.
Everybody just be a nonprofit. Yeah.
Well,
we respect that. Yeah, we respect that.
For the 2 exits I've had in biotech, I have an entrepreneurial streak. I have done other things that have not had exits, and my wife calls them non-purposed nonprofits.
It's nice.
I didn't do it on purpose, but that was a nonprofit. Yeah, we lost money on that one. So, but yeah, we want to run this as close as we can to nonprofit, you know, not having a big profit, because we want to pass that value down to you guys, right?
Mhm.
So that's our plan. So I can put together an invoice. I will have Regents of the University of